Today is Saturday, and so I can only tell what we spoke about and want to do next week. So Angel and I talked about this old door. It is a little bit too short, but wide enough to be used as a lid for this. So next week Angel plans on making it a little bit larger so that it serves as a lid for this box here. And then what we will install in there is then protected from the rain. The whole thing will not fill up with rainwater. That's the point. And we also looked and talked about where to have the water lines that go to the different irrigation targets. So we came up with a bunch of lines going that way and another bunch going this way. And this will be opened so that we can finally make the connection of 12 water lines that come out of that hole. The valves are on the inside, well protected, and there are the pumps also. And then these 12 lines come here. There will be rigid PVC for this part and then flexible PE lines once they go into the ground. And then we can make connections here to the different places. That is why we have this box, so that we can make connections and add connections over time, because we will not have 12 lines buried at the moment, but eventually. So this box is to allow us to do this and still have the lines buried. So eventually this might then not be needed anymore, but who knows? So this is basically one place where we can do this. We are also now at a phase where we bury not only water lines but also electrical cables. So I can show a detail here. So here at the edge there is a very thick electrical cable, and you see what looks like water lines, but actually they contain cables. So there's this electrical cable, which is a high duty cable or heavy duty, and the other one contains an Ethernet cable, which is already being used. So right now this hangs here, and the Ethernet cable is in that other pipe, and eventually they will be attached to this wall and then provide a better connection to this. So this is the cable that is being used for this very same purpose. And I actually need to close this. I did this yesterday at the end of the day. But what it does already is it provides better service to these antennas there, and because I eliminated a wireless connection with a wired one, the connections in that direction are now a lot more stable, which helps to irrigate what we have in that area, because the rainbird controllers are wireless. But of course, if the connection to the rest of the network is flaky, this is not very good. So providing a cabled wired connection was already good. One of the next things once we get there is to have a trench here and bury more cables and water line, so that eventually this there at the entrance is then different. It's working, but I'm not very happy with the results so far. And a quick test on the surface to provide power and a connection failed. Probably it was too long, or the cable wasn't of the right quality. Now we have different cable, and then it should work better, so I hope. But one thing at a time, and one thing that we need to do in order to pull this off, we need to work on the inside of this room there. And also, despite the fact that we use it for storage and also there's a desk in there, we need to install a 19-inch rack that is hanging on the wall so that we can put all these connections there. So maybe I should show you our chaos on the inside. So again, this is not to write home about. Also, I'm showing this to the whole world. we are working here and we are making changes. So here we have used this to work on a few things and also to store some of the irrigation stuff. All this needs to leave this room eventually, because this room is going to be the place where we have the inverters, batteries and other electrical components. And there is also here in this box a 19-inch rack, and this will find its home here on that wall, so that Ethernet cables and also a little bit of electrical stuff goes there. Here on the other side we will have the battery charge controller, the inverter, and there where all this stuff is currently sitting, there we will have new batteries once we get to this point. And we will close this permanently and install an exhaust fan there, so that this room is then the one that is used for the batteries. And here we will install a door, the type that you use for a cage. So it's a main door so that you can go in here, but you cannot reach this place, because the rest of this building is used for different purposes. So in there is a shower room for volunteers, and upstairs we have some sleeping quarters. And the volunteers who have been here might remember this place. So we have not done any improvements so far, but it has light. It has even plugs with USB ports up there so that people can charge their phones. But we learned that this is something that only works when the temperatures are not the scorching heat of summer or the very cold of winter. So it is something for autumn, fall or spring, then it works very well. So anyone interested in coming to help us, those are the 2 times when it's possible. And in here, yeah, this is work in progress. We stopped working on this, but we will continue at some point to make this a livable space for people who are here temporarily. And this will then also stop being a workshop like it is right now. We did some woodwork here and also worked with the fiberglass, which turned out to be difficult. So again, we need to clean this up, and then this can be put back to its originally intended use. We also, while we still had a lot of sunshine and it was too hot, added some shade clothes here, and it proved very valuable, so that we were able to work outside in the shade. Makes a huge difference. So instead of being in 35-degree heat, and in direct sunlight it's of course a lot more, we were able to work comfortable here outside. And I just penned over this, and now I think I should say a word about this. So this is unfinished, and the reason why I have not continued this, that there are stuff outside that still needs to work, and I am waiting for the rain to come, and then we can remove a lot of things that we have installed for irrigation outside that also require electricity. And then it's a perfect moment to remove this cable here and make the final touches to this panel, because the idea is that the connection from the house comes in from up there instead of using a much thinner cable that is currently being used. So the cable that I just showed you outside is supposed to be the cross connection between the cortijo and what we call casita, our temporary house. And I can make this connection the right way, and then this gets then remodeled basically. So the relays there at the top, they will also move, and then this is just the panel for the cortijo. So instead of having the top row the thing start here at the bottom and everything else gets removed. And I don't like to disconnect things and then leave it in another half state. So I rather keep it like it is and then finish it soon when this opportunity arises. Right now it's working and I don't have to touch it. For the irrigation system I made a change in the internal logic, and one pump is now responsible for low flow and low pressure application, like this one here. So there is a regulator, and the two wobblers also have one at the top. So this is basically 3 times low flow. There is no point in running a pump to drive this that can deliver 7,000 liters per minute, because it's like running an engine on full power and then regulate the speed with the brakes. So that makes no sense. And so we use the 2 pumps depending on the situation and on the irrigation target. And in the Home Assistant I have 2 buttons to start this. And so this is one of the 2 low flow targets. The other one is this over here. This does not need that much because of the amount of wobblers that we have there. But it also works very well with the high power pump. But I have it in such a way that I can switch back and forth and do this on demand. But of course I need to use the shut-off valves that we have inside here. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here there are the 2 pumps and there are the 2 shut-off valves, and right now I'm using that Grundfos Scala 2 pump there, which is variable speed and can develop different pressure and flow, while the other one is a very simple one, costs half of the Grundfos, which is simply 7,000 liters per hour, because it does that. So this is only turn it on or turn it off. What I should mention is, in the last video I talked about that we are planning a new irrigation system for the upcoming year. So the Grundfos pump is variable speed, and this other one is just full power and that's it. They have different applications, and the thing that we are planning to do is also variable speed, but it requires a simple pump that is very powerful and runs on 3 phases. So alternate current with 3 phases, and then there's a frequency regulator. That is the expensive part. So I'll give you 2 numbers. Such a pump is about 300 euros, and a 3-phase pump also 300-400. And the frequency regulator to control the speed of the pump is 700. So now you see, it's not a pump that is expensive, it's the logic that controls the pump. And the 3-phase pump would then replace these 2. And then we can use the right amount of flow depending on how much we connect. So basically what it does is, same way as this Grundfos is doing at the moment, you set it to a certain pressure, and then the pump will provide the flow to meet the pressure. And therefore you can connect more or less devices on the other end, given that the pump is always more powerful than what you need, and then you have the correct type of irrigation system. So that's what we are up to, and eventually we will have this at 3 places at least. So one is this one here, and the other is for the ponds, and the ponds will have a holding tank next to them like this, but larger, probably several of these. So the thought is to have some 6,000-7,000 liters of storage as a buffer, and that is where the pump is then connected to. And then a different pump that can deal with dirty water and therefore will not be damaged sits in the pond. So when we irrigate from a tank and refill the tank while we irrigate from the pond. That is basically the setup that we have at the moment. So this comes from a well at the moment. It used to come directly from the pond. And in the future, this is the pattern. So we pump out of a pond into a tank, have a filter before the tank so that we have clear water. And then we can use a powerful pump that has variable speed and use that to irrigate. And that way we then have a well-designed professional system that truly can be used for our new irrigation purposes. And we learned the characteristics that we need this time, and next time we should then have it. And everything is then nice and it should be smooth sailing, so I hope. And of course we talked to people who know about these things. The problem is, if you talk to people who know about this, they ask you what type of crop, how much water do you need? And if you can't answer that, they cannot help you. So now we know these things. So as I am cleaning this here up, by this I mean that, I am doing chop and drop, and this creates quite a nice carpet. I can also show you that this has fallen almost dry. So the water level has dropped below the point of excavation, and now you only see a little bit of a mud puddle there. There's still some water, but it is definitely, you see, it is a mud puddle. So we are waiting for the rain, and once it shows up, then of course this fills again. So 3.5 meter is as low as it gets. And I still have to chop and drop here with my machine. And it is a quick job, and it's also very satisfying because the result speaks for itself. So I am creating a lawn just by watering and cutting it with this weed whacker that I'm using here, or string trimmer. So this works very well. I use the string when it is soft, and I use the blade on the similar device, but a different model, when it is more woody and the string would be destroyed way too quick. And a little bit earlier I did it there in the back. I also decided to recover some of the stones that I kept mentioning. So soon, probably one more session, we can then take this out with the backhoe. Of course we need to drive over this. But the moment we do this, we will also level these things here to the left, because we want to put a chicken tractor here as our first attempt for doing that.